Hey y'all, we're back for another conversation of calling, the conversation. All these C's I did on purpose and now it got me in a tongue twister. But we're live. I am gonna give it a second, one for my guests to join and for everyone to start coming live. Tell your friends, tell everyone about this conversation where we're having authentic conversations about confronting our calling and living life in purpose, on purpose. And my guest has already joined me, so that's perfect. But yeah, Likitia, if you can request to join, I think that's how that works. And then I'll add you to the live if that's not how. Or I can invite you. Come on in, come on in. I'm so excited for this conversation today. Lakita is another powerful woman and has an amazing story. So I think we can learn so much from what she's been through, what she said yes to, what she said no to, and why she chose to do that. So if as I'm waiting for her to join and everything, let me see what's going on. Okay, I accepted. See, my videos be doing something weird, but as we're working out her joining. If you missed last week's conversation with Likitia, Coach Likitia Williams, I implore you to go back and watch the replay. It's available on my YouTube channel, the Diane Reed Experience, and it's also available on my profile. So it's saved. I save all these lives so you guys have an opportunity to watch the replay if you weren't able to see it when it was being broadcasted. But that conversation was so great. Uh, Here we go. Lucretia, she just was so authentic, so transparent, and I think it's so necessary for you guys to watch that replay on saying yes and obeying the Lord, even when people try to remind you of your past, even when you try to move ahead, continuing to say yes, even when it's difficult. So I implore you to watch that replay. Okay, I think Lakita can join now. Let's see. Lakita, I invited you to join, so here we go.
Hey,
Hello. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's
Good.
been an interesting Monday, to be honest, but it's overall really good.
Very, very interesting.
Very.
Very.
How has your Monday been so far?
Okay. Just
Okay.
busy. Just work, school,
Work, everything,
New York
everything.
traffic.
Oh, that's the worst, especially good evening. Good evening. Thanks you guys for joining. We'll have a little banter so to give some people some opportunity to join before we deep dive into the discussion. Hey y'all, thanks for joining live. Um, so yeah, so I'm yeah, in New York, when you're driving, it just seems like everyone has issues with them. They don't know where they're going, how to drive. Everyone's driving crazy.
Crazy.
And it's like, just pull over. Just pull over, clear the road so I can get to my destination.
Exactly. Or don't try to dodge in front of me quickly, like without thinking.
They don't care about their lives. That's really it.
They don't.
I'm like, you're putting yourself in danger too. But yeah. So for those of you who are new to this live discussion, this is called the Confrontation of Calling.
Wait, I can't hear you. I can see you.
Can
Wait,
you hear?
yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So, yes. So, this is the Confrontation of Calling, the conversation. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Diane Reed. Hello. I am a coach, a speaker, an author, um, a consultant. And and I just want to introduce myself because I know there are some people who are new to the live. So I created the brand, the Confrontation of Calling, because I want to help people confront, contend for, and confirm their callings. And I feel like each and every one of us come to a point in our lives where we're confronted with a version of ourselves that we didn't expect to become, we didn't even imagine for ourselves. But kind of the Lord is putting this person in front of us that we never really imagined. And that at that moment, we have to choose whether or not we become who we were always created to be, or whether we choose to stay the same or stay in a path that the Lord didn't even design for us. So my goal is always to support and help people as they transition back to their original creation. So this is the goal of these conversations, to be very transparent, to bring people from different walks of life and show that we're actually all experiencing similar journeys. And what can we learn from each other's journeys? How can we be inspired by each other's journeys? And how can we realize that we're not alone as we journey through this thing of confronting our calling and accepting our calling? So that is the background of the brand. That is the background of Confrontation of Calling. And today I have with me Likitia Balogun. Yes.
Yes.
So excited. So I have a very brief bio, but then I'll ask her to, share whatever she wants to share. So Likitia Balogun has overcome abuse, rejection, and depression. Likitia is a leader in the local healthcare system. She is a mentor and a speaker who inspires others to heal well. I love that. So I present to you Likitia Balogun. Hello, thank you officially for coming. Is there anything else you want to share with us? Anything about your background before we just jump right in?
I'm sure we're going to talk about this like a little along the way. But I'm from Detroit, D-Town State. What up, though? They tell me I don't sound right saying that, but I know where I'm from. Other than that, I'll let you just ask the questions. You said a little bit about me. I'm a leader at a local hospital here in New York. I'm over a prayer team at church. I also teach at church. Love Jesus. But I also have balance in life. So I'm also a student. I'm working on my doctorate. So I'm working to get a DNP and systems leadership. So I'm supposed to be done. I'm not gonna say supposed to. I will be done in May of 2025. So that's like 9 months from now. Yes.
Okay.
I am
Dr. B.
Dr. B. Huh? I am a busy woman, but I appreciate even this platform because I feel like this is and I don't want to go off into what you're going to ask questions about, but I appreciate this platform because I feel like it's a crisis. Like even people that the Lord call, they still be on the run. I mean, Jonah, hello.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Jonah, Moses. He was like, "You want me to do what?" But I felt so like I think that everybody will have to eventually confront their calling. So this is good. I appreciate this platform. I'm sure that a lot of people will need it. And a lot of people will appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I won't get all sappy.
Not yet. For the answer. But I appreciate it. And I'm talking from experience too. I had multiple experiences where I had to confront a version of myself I didn't expect to be. And part of that was being an entrepreneur, creating this. Who am I to, facilitate these conversations? But I'm exactly who God created me to be. And my goal is just to be obedient in everything that He tells me to be. So, I completely understand. So thank you for that background. Let's jump right into it. So how I always start off these conversations is I just want you to tell me about a situation or a time where you feel like you were confronted with a version of yourself that you never imagined, that you never conceptualized, a version of yourself. You were like, wait, you want me to do what? You want me to be where? Go where? And all the emotions that come with all of that. I want you to start there, and then we'll continue our conversation.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I've been like pondering on this, so I'm like, am I gonna tell this story? Am I gonna tell that story? Because sis got a lot of stories.
That's so good.
But I think that the time that was most pivotal was, I know back in 2011, my first time hearing the Lord speak and telling me, preach my word, teach my word. I'll provide for you, I'll take care of you, and don't fear, and all of that stuff. Like, He was just talking to me about who I was. But He never put like a disclaimer to tell me everything that would come after that. But what I learned just like over time was that I'm a woman of faith. Mm-hmm. So learning that I'm a woman of faith, I didn't know that I'm like an Abraham. Mm-hmm. But I think I had to confront the fact that I was a woman of faith while I was being told to be in faith. So it wasn't like somebody just said, hey, you're a woman of faith. It was like, hey, I need you to do this. Mm-hmm. So when I was, I had one semester to go when I was working on my master's degree. I had one semester to go. I'm still living in Detroit. I was married. But I had started like seeking the Lord like crazy. And I was feeling the jolt to like move to Chicago. Mm-hmm. But I joined All Nations in Chicago in 2018. And I remember the first day that I was going for, like they used to have like a Super Saturday, mm-hmm. where you go for like, I don't want to say orientation because it's church, but with, discovery. So you go to like discovery, the discovery class, they tell you all about the church. So I remember driving from Detroit to Chicago on a Saturday morning, and I remember crossing over the tolls to get to Chicago, to get into Illinois, and the Lord said, welcome home. Mm. Tears just flowing because something hit my belly. It's like, okay, He's saying, welcome home. Is He talking about this church? Mm-hmm. Is He talking about Illinois? Like there was a part of me that knew that He was talking about Illinois, but I still had to like resolve the fact that I may have to move soon. So a year later, and the one thing that a lot of people didn't know was there was issues that was going on in my marriage that I didn't share with a lot of people. And I'm telling this part of the story because people will sometimes make a judgment off of the decisions that you make to obey the Lord. And because they don't understand it, then they'll make up their own narratives. Yep. So I was going back and forth to Chicago like every other weekend for a year. I'm sorry, I'm in a conference room and everybody is peeking in. People so nice. Okay, I'm sorry. So in the process of me, the Lord like preparing me to finally go to Illinois, it wasn't like I started like looking at one point at places. I'm sorry, first April, I'm trying to tell the story quick because I know the time. So
We got time.
April 2019, I left Chicago. I went home to Detroit. I packed my things up, put my things in storage, stayed in the hotel for a few nights, and then stayed with people for maybe a month or so. Mm-hmm. And in the process of doing this, there was a nagging, like, okay, I know I'm probably going to end up like in Chicago. I was in a friend's studio apartment, and the Lord said to me, turn in your 2-week notice. So when I say, he didn't say you're a woman of faith, he just started giving like instructions. Said, hold on. Yeah. He said, turn in your 2-week notice. Then I was a nurse that worked in the PACU. Remember, I said I was in school working on my master's degree. I didn't have a lot of savings because remember, I said I had been back and forth from Detroit to Chicago for like a year. I did this. I went back and forth, and the distance was 4 hours going and 4 hours coming. So hotel rooms, gas. Sometimes I got rental cars. So I didn't have a lot of savings. So the Lord told me to turn my 2-week notice. I couldn't tell anybody. And he gave me a certain date. I tried to wait like 3-4 days. But in the process of me, I turned my 2-week notice. The date that I was supposed to be my last day, that the Lord gave me was the actual date that was my last day because I was leaving out the house to go to work and tripped and fell. Wow. So I ain't saying that the Lord pushed me down, right? But I know that he will allow things to take place so that you will go and do what it is he's asking you to do. It's not by force, but it's like, let me allow. So literally, I think that also what happened was, because even after that, I think what happened was Michigan coughed me out. It could no longer hold me. So I applied for one place. They denied me. I went to Chicago on the weekend, riding around looking at places, and it was on a Sunday, so I couldn't see the inside of places. On a Monday, I called a place. I said, hey, I rode past. Can you basically go around this place and let me see what it looked like? I want to see what I'm looking at, like out of my window. So the apartment manager went around, sent me a video, and I was like, so how does this process goes? So I already had it in my mind that I wanted to be in Illinois by my birthday, which is June 14th. So I applied, and that night I got an approval. Wow. So that was a Monday. By that Friday, I was on the road with my truck full of my things on my way to Chicago. Woo. Yes. So that's a moment of I'm a woman of faith. Yeah. Like, you're not even seeing what I have to show you, but the feelings that I feel like and let me just add, remember I was in school for my master's. I still had to go to school. I still had to go to clinical, which was 2 hours away. That's a whole nother thing. And even got tested in my faith because I took a job to teach at an LPN school. I was what LPN? A licensed practical nurse. Okay. So I'm like, oh, all right, God, you did it. I got a job. I was supposed to start school that Monday. I started working there that Monday. That Sunday, our apostle stood me up, and he said, he basically confirmed two things though. He said, you're like a female Abraham. But he also said, there are two doors before you. Don't take the first one, it's Ishmael. So I'm like, how am I? I knew what he was talking about automatically. I'm like, how am I going to tell these people I can't work here? So I went to work. And in the not even 4 weeks that I was there, it got crazy. I turned in my notice. I was like, just to be responsible adult. Like, I can't do this. Right after that, I got a contract to work a job just for 5 days and got $6,000.
Wow.
So,
wow.
so that even just that part right there, like, shows you like God is a provider. But I had so many emotions with the fact, because I know that you asked about like the emotions like surrounding me.
Yeah.
Fear.
Before you go into the emotions, I just want to recap, because what you just explained was so much, right? No, it's so good because it's the full story. But for those of you who are just joining, for those of you who kind of missed each step, I just want to recap. So you're in Detroit, you're married, number one. You're getting your master's in, was it forensic nursing?
Forensic nursing, yes. Yes.
You have your support system in Detroit. You said you were born and raised in Detroit, so this is a place you grew up in. And here the Lord is calling you one thing. Hey, you're a woman of faith. You've never heard this in your life. And not only is he calling you that thing, he's giving you instruction behind that name. So not only is he calling you that thing and not giving you a chance to figure out what that even looks like, he's like, you're gonna learn it on the job. This is what I'm asking you to do.
This is on the job training.
On the job training. And it's not just, it's faith in your relational dynamic, because did your husband move with you to Chicago? No. So relational faith, your resources were unknown moving to Chicago. You're on people's couches for a month. Your job, you didn't have a job moving to Chicago before you moved. You just said yes.
Oh, Diane, hold on.
You just said yes.
Okay, not too.
Because I think this is a key point, right? I think when we feel like we hear the calling, when we feel like we hear the Lord is calling us to do something, we think we have to have everything figured out before we say yes, before we actually do what he's telling us to do. But he's saying, follow me and I'll provide on the way. I'll provide along the way.
Yes.
Even if it doesn't make sense, even if it seems like nothing is together, your job is just to say yes to who I have already called you and created you to be. So I wanted to pause there, because that story is just, it's literally a Abraham story. For real. Leave the land of your father.
That's what I was just about to say. I'm like, hold on, I know a scripture. God told Abraham, leave your country, your family, and your father's home for a land that I will show you. What? Hello? You want me to leave my family, my friends?
So yes, please tell me all the emotions that come with leaving a place that you're familiar with, people you're familiar with, a marriage that you had expectations for, a job that you had expectations for, all those emotions that come up.
Fear. Heartbreak, because leaving a marriage, I don't care how bad it was. It's literally like that's a part of you, and that was a part of me for years. I think some people didn't know. By the time I got a divorce, I had been married almost 10 years. Wow. Grown and married, huh? So, heartbreak, right? So it's like God is like, He's like, I'm pulling you away from your family. I'm not, I don't want to say pulling away from, but there was a stripping that took place. It's no other way to put it. There was a stripping that took place, and stripping hurts. Stripping is very uncomfortable, but there's the only way to experience transformation is if you allow God to strip you. It is no other way around it. Like, I mean, I don't even know what my life would have been like if I went back to my ex-husband. No shade to him. Um, it it just wasn't in God's will for my life. Period.
Yeah.
If I would have went back to Detroit, I mean, I had people trying to offer me jobs in Detroit not too long after. Like, hey, do you want my job? Like, inboxing me. So the enemy was trying to get me back there. So it was painful, very uncomfortable. The biggest thing that I think that people don't really talk about in transition, it's a lonely place.
Mm.
It's a lonely place. So I just left my partner. I just left my family support system. I just left what I knew to be comfortable to go into this now strange land. Mm-hmm. Will that land yield its fruit to me? Absolutely. It still owes me. Hello? Mm-hmm. But I left all of that to go into an unknown land. Mm. So it's scary. So fear, fear, sadness, heartbreak, loneliness. Mm-hmm. For me, though, the other thing that was on the other side of that, though, too, was a level of excitement. Mm. Something in me knew that because it was God sending me, there was just something, and I think that's the faith aspect. Like, there was just something in me that knew that He wasn't going to leave me. Yeah. And even in times where I felt like, these bills due, somebody will come give me a word like, God said nothing is being taken from you. Nothing. So, okay.
Yeah. No, I think because my next question for you was, what made you say yes? And you spoke about that. It's the promises that the Lord has already told you. And excitement on the other hand. Is there anything else that contributed to you saying yes, despite all the things that you had to let go?
You know what? I don't want to keep talking about my church because I don't want people to think I'm trying to like get them to go to my church.
Hey, if it's part of your story, it's part of your story.
Oh no, she's worship assembly. No. But when I encountered All Nations Worship Assembly, I also crashed into my future. Mm. And I started to see sides of me. And there was Toria's laughing, and there was like this glimmer of there is something else. And I started to see aspects of God that I hadn't been introduced to. So I feel like part of me saying yes was like this like excitement, because what else can you do? What else are you capable of? Like there's so much more. And just to also to see, and now I'm actually seeing the fruit of it, but to see I think I'm moving ahead, but to see people that are now walking in deliverance because I said yes, that's crazy. That's to see people free because I said, okay, I'm gonna be yielded. Like that's bananas, but also to experience my own freedom because I said yes. Because I can't be trying to free somebody else. So I think that I saw that glimpse of another level of freedom.
Yeah.
And when I say I ran toward it. So while I was afraid, while I was emotional, because I'm prophetic, right? So we emotional people. But like I was emotional, so I have all of this stuff, all of these like emotions, all of this stuff just balled like in a big ball. But I can't forget the excitement of it because I knew that God was going to show Himself, and He always does.
Yeah. Because he
We always
do exactly what he says.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also what you're talking about uh, with All Nations, like the power of being in the right room,
Mm-hmm.
opens you up to another level or another perspective that you would have never had access to if you didn't say yes to even going in the room.
Yes.
Even going in the room. So for those of you who feel like you're being tugged in a direction, you're feeling called to go into new places or new spaces or new rooms, you don't even know how those rooms will unlock things inside of you that you didn't even know exist. And it's also the power of being in the right community, because now you're in the same rooms or you're in similar rooms with people who have similar mindsets.
Yes.
So now you're seeing other people living out their calling, and it's like, wait, that's what life can look like if I say yes to the Lord. I absolutely want to see what this journey looks like for me. And then you said, so many people are being free because of your yes. So
Yes.
I think when we live in America, when we live in a Western society, it's very easy to be self-centered. It's very easy to be individualistic. But your yes is also a yes that'll set other generations free. So because you're saying yes to who the Lord created you to be,
Yeah.
a solution, a problem solver, we've all been created because the Lord saw a need, saw a need for a Likitia, saw a need for a Bree, saw a need for Andre, saw a need for Sparkle, saw a need for Kid,
Yes.
saw a need for Sheldon. He said,
Yeah.
these people are necessary in this earth because, one, so my glory can be magnified in the earth, but so that the problems that exist in this earth can be solved via them. So that people can be free via them.
By them.
Via them, via Likitia, via Diane. And when we get so focused on all our pain, I think we forget the bigger picture. We forget the bigger why. Your pain is on purpose. Everything will be used, even the losses, even the traumatic experiences. When you heal and when you heal well, you're able to set other people free from the similar pains that you've gone through. So it's not even just about you. It's never been just about you. It's always been so other people can be delivered, other people can be set free because of your. So knowing that you are a person who is unlocking stories, other stories. And I think when we speak about this, we think it's like this broad thing, like you're gonna change the world. Yes, but the way you change the world is by changing your worlds. The people that you have access to, your family, your friends, the people on your job, all of these people are your worlds, are part of your worlds. And because you're choosing to be all that God created you to be, people can be changed and transformed because they're seeing the God in you. We were all created in His image, right? So all we're doing is representing Jesus in wherever we go. And that's what playing out our calling, that's what living out our calling looks like. And I think that's so important as we continue to say yes.
As we continue to say yes.
As we continue to yes. So you touched on it, but how has seeing other people be impacted by your yes? You literally changed states. How has that first encouraged you to keep saying yes? And how has that encouraged you to encourage you as you have said? So the past, like, oh yes, I did the right thing, but because I see how people are free because I say yes, I'm gonna keep saying it. How has that impacted?
Amazingly, but I can't lie and say that it's all been amazing because one of the parts of me, I'm a deliverer. So me saying yes, um, end me up in places where I may walk people through deliverance, and the same people that I walk through deliverance are the same people that turn around and cuss me out or don't want to have anything to do with me. And this is like just, being transparent. So, but even in that, if and Lord knows I'm not Jesus, but even with the lepers, only one came back, and that's okay. If my saying yes brings even one person to a point of deliverance, I'm okay, and I'll continue to say yes.
That's so good.
I've seen people have the courage because of what I walked away from, and because of my obedience, and of course through Christ, because I never want to take the credit, to the point like no, this is because of God's doing. This is because of God. But because of the obedience factor, I've seen other people walk away from abusive situations, abusive moments. And I think you said it earlier. I don't know if we were in conversation here or just like in general, but about even things that you have to say no to. So seeing people develop the courage to say no, that will make me continually say yes to the Lord as He lead me. Okay, this is uncomfortable. I don't know what this is about to look like, and I'm not gonna go into the New York story because that's where I am now. But it's still I will obey you. And so you was talking about changing the world around you, even if it happens one person at a time. Because I don't think people realize, and sometimes people be like, well, I don't have that much of impact. But if you can have a conversation with one person that literally changed the trajectory of their lives, you're doing more than enough. So even for you, Diane, as you're counseling people or you're talking to people about confronting their calling, remember, even if it's one person at a time, you're still in the wheel. And that one person will then go to another person, will then go to another person. And it's not even something that you have to be like, you coming? They coming? You're in purpose. The Lord is going to send them. Yeah. When you're in purpose, when you're in obedience and when you're in His will, things are going to line up. And it may not seem like it at first, but it's going to happen. And the premise of you asked me in the beginning about initially the whole thing about being a woman of faith, and I think that this is maybe a side that some people don't prefer to not talk about. The first time the Lord called me, He didn't say just woman of faith. I was the woman with the alabaster box. And I fell in love with the scripture in Luke where I think it's Luke 42, but it talks about how Jesus was talking about her, and Jesus said, she sinned much, she's been forgiven. She sinned much, she's been forgiven much, so she loves much. And I remember reading that saying, oh, that's me. Because I can't count out the fact that I was a sinner, still a sinner, right? Because to the day that I'm out of here. But I was outright in clubs, going to strip bars, acting a fool, being in bars, standing up on stools, being drunk, and the Lord coming to me, that was my introduction, the woman with the alabaster box. And He said something. He said something also. He said, when He talked to Simon Peter, He was basically this woman, I've been in your house. You ain't acknowledged this. And then he said, this woman anointed me basically for my burial. But he also said, he told her to go and sin no more. But he also said this, your faith has healed you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A woman of faith. She had faith to go into a place that she wasn't even respected in, a place that she shouldn't even been in. She had the faith to go to that place and to sit at the feet of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just, but that's the whole faith thing. Because once again, I can't count out the fact that I was out here before I got married.
Mm-hmm.
I was out here. So like, I think that's another part of it. What I want to see, like with me saying yes and me obeying, is people being snatched out the way that I was snatched out.
Yeah. Ooh, and you bring up a great point because you explained kind of the life you were living before your marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and I want you to I want to talk. You don't have to go into details, but I want you to talk about that moment when you're getting confronted with who the Lord is telling you you are and have always,
Mm-hmm.
but you're reminded of all the things you used to do that may have been negative or may have not aligned to what he's saying you are now. What were some of your own internal processes to let go of some self-perceptions that you may have, right? Because I think when we hear our calling or when we hear the Lord calling us to do a thing, the immediate thing is, I'm not qualified.
Yes.
I'm unworthy. You don't know what I've done. And he does, of course. But it's like, I don't have all the things necessary. I'm not the person. That person over there is more qualified. That person over there can do this better than I can. But the Lord is calling you. So I want you to kind of unpack a little bit. What were your own internal processings to let go of those self-perceptions that maybe didn't align to what the Lord was saying about you?
Um, I think that one of the things that I tried to be consistent in was prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've dealt with rejection in the past. So people that are rejected will also reject themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that's are you sure you're talking about me, God? Even to the point where when the Lord was like, preach my word, teach my word, I went to somebody whose opinion that I cared about, and they said to me, you sure he's talking about you preaching?
Wow.
So I have that. So I'm dealing with the internal rejection from somebody that, I trust.
Mm-hmm.
And the processing through, like, I feel like I just had to, like, make sure that I renew my mind. And I'm still in the process of continually renewing my mind, because when the Lord call you, he keeps calling. He keeps calling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, He'll call you something in one season and add to it in the next. Because he can't give you all. He ain't gonna say, you're a prophet and an apostle. Or you do this, you should do that. You like he can't give it to you all at once. He give it to you all at once. The weight of it will probably kill you. So just like one thing that I feel like helped me in the process of being the woman of faith and even being prophetic, with no escaping to it, exactly. Being a woman of faith, being prophetic, I started to study, right? So if I study and I see prophetic people in the Bible, if I see people in faith in the Bible, then that's the thing that's going to help me, because I need to have something to give me a little bit of strength to move even when I don't know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
When you've been bullied growing up, it's always the comparison. And like you said, like why me? I told somebody, and they're like,
You sure?
Yeah, you sure?
Mm.
You sure? You sure? But I had to like also navigate through the comparison thing. And I navigated through that thing all the way up until I was at All Nation Chicago, almost till I got to New York. By the time I got to New York, I was a little, but it was a navigating like, okay, God, you're saying this is who I am. Like, you need to show me and show me how to navigate through who I am. So I think it's also like, this is your favorite word, identity.
Mm-hmm.
Realizing that my identity is a daughter. So if there's something that he's called me to do, it's not like something that I have to drum up and it's not even something that I have to be perfect in.
Mm-hmm.
I literally just have to yield.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope I answered that question
No,
because
you did. And it's actually similar to our previous discussion, previous iteration of this episode with Likitia last week. The idea of reminding yourself of the truth, which is what the Lord has said, will always keep you grounded when everything seems chaotic around you or when lies try to infiltrate your mind. It's reminding yourself of what the word says, reminding yourself of what the Lord has called you to be, and meditating on those things your instead of what the enemy tries to say, instead of what people who don't even understand your calling
that
try to
should be lying.
say. Liar. He was a liar from the beginning. Okay. So there's such an importance of even practicing what the Lord has called you to be. Like
Sure.
practicing that, saying that over your, reminding yourself that, studying what the Lord has said about you. You brought up a good point about even researching the Lord has called you to be. Like in the Bible, who are people in the Bible that are similar to me, who have similar journeys as me, because you can glean something from their story, just like here as we're having these conversations. For anyone who's listening and you resonate with Lakita's story, what can you glean from it? Okay, I can maybe expect this because we have similar callings, or I can maybe expect this. We're all going to be tested in our friendship area. We're all going to be tested in people who know us, trying to question who the Lord is calling us to be. We're all going to go through fear. We're all going to go through that grieving process. So what can I learn? How can I surround myself with people who can speak life into me? How can I put myself in rooms and communities who are speaking life into me because they're on similar journeys as me and they have yielded themselves before the Lord? And I think the biggest thing, it just reminded me as we speak about community, because I think that's a big part as you're transitioning. And yes, there were times where you will feel lonely, like you spoke about. But what did you do to kind of cope with that loneliness during that transition process? Because I think that's another thing people fear. It's like, who's going to be with me on this journey if I have to let go of all these things, or if I have to let go of all these things that are familiar? How did you cope with the loneliness?
One, and I don't want to sound cliche, I delve deeper my relationship with the Lord. We'll talk about this at another time about utilizing music to minister to me, and it wasn't gospel music. Hello, but in that it was like he was giving me little sweet talks like along the way. So even through songs, so embracing that, but also finding myself in community, finding myself friendly, because let's see who's gonna come around and help me. And things changed, but I had community coming. I had a group of people that I was friends with when I got to Chicago. So I have safe places. And I also, and I was going to say this the few moments ago, wise counsel. You always need, don't ever find yourself, I don't care how lonely you may be, when you feel lonely, you better run towards somebody. And I'm not talking about somebody you shouldn't be running toward, hello? But when you feel lonely, you run toward the people that got wise counsel, people that are filled, and not people that are filled and that's playing, but people that are filled and people that can tell you, hey, not people that can tickle your ears either, because people that are filled can do that too. But people that are filled and that literally utilize wise counsel and be like, you're wrong in this. What was the last thing that God said? So finding yourself in a community of around people that are wise, and it doesn't have to be a lot of people. Even if it's one person that you, I have a few, but I got one friend. I call her mother, and when I call her, she be like, "What? You did what?" Okay, now did you repent? Okay, now, like, what's your plan?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't plan to do like, and I think that everybody should have like that type of wisdom around them. And I'm not saying rush into relationship for that, but ask God to bring wise counsel and wise people and wise, not just, well, I'll just say, if they're wise, they're going to be safe anyway. Safe community.
Safe community.
Safe
So,
community.
yeah. So what I heard you say,
Safe.
what I heard you say is, one, the Lord wanted, and during that loneliness and the transition period,
He loved on me.
feels,
He loved on me.
He loved on you.
He
And I
loved
feel like
me.
that's what will help with the fear, because when you start to feel lonely in those transitional periods, the Lord really just wants to show you that He's there.
Yes.
How much He loves you and how much He really is all that you need.
Mm-hmm.
So in the
Mm-hmm.
parts where you're grieving that those people that you've left, or that location that you've left, that familiar place that you left, He wants to show up as comforter. In
Yes.
places where you feel like things are chaotic around you,
Ooh.
He wants to show up as peace.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to show up as rest, and he wants to show you that you don't need all those other things that you used to cope and run to that weren't really satisfying anyway. And He wants to show you that He is the everlasting peace. He is the everlasting joy. He is the everlasting comforter.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So something just came to me.
Yes.
In the process of Him loving on me,
Mm-hmm.
and then me receiving, that's the moment where I was able to tap into my identity.
That's so good.
Me receiving His love. Like He loves me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm able to receive what it is He's saying about me.
That's so good. No, that's so good.
Yeah.
Because you spoke about identity, which is a big piece in accepting your calling.
And perfect love cast out all fear, right?
Come on. This is the truth. This is the truth. And this is what we have to remind ourselves of. Because, first of all, the Lord created us to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to be, not to do, not to have, to be. So if we don't understand what it looks like to be who He has created me, to be a child of God, to be so secure in who he has called me to be, so secure in His love, so secure in the fact that I'm already accepted, so secure in the fact that I'm already chosen, so secure in the fact that I'm already worthy because He called me worthy, not because of anything I will do, have done, or am doing. There's nothing you can do to win the love of God. And that's the stability that we need as we're moving in this earth, doing what He's called us to do. It comes from being stable in the love of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of people are getting tossed to and fro. A lot of people are getting lost in their identity because they don't know the one who created them.
Yeah.
They haven't accepted the love of the Father who has created them.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no peace in the success and the money in the accolades. There is no peace in that.
Mm-hmm.
If you see people who are constantly talking about the hustle and the grind,
Mm-hmm.
if you would see behind closed doors, they would have no peace because they are working towards something that is only attainable through Christ.
Yeah. Only obtainable.
Only. And though that transitional period of that may feel lonely, though it is lonely, it is the most securing part of accepting your calling. It is the most securing part, because once you get drilled into your head that the Lord already accepts you, that the God of the universe has already accepted you, the one who created the birds and the trees and the earth and the skies and the stars, once you have learned and accepted that he has already loved you and chose you and he calls you his, who can tell you otherwise?
Mm-hmm.
What in life can tell you otherwise? What can direct you off of his path? Nothing, because you're so secure in him. And I'm not going to say some days will not be hard. Some days will not be hard to remember that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But the encouraging thing is that he's still with you on those bad days too. And there's grace to do it again. There's grace for another day. There's grace to do it again and to try again,
Mm-hmm.
because you're already accepted in him. And I think that's so key. And it's such a good part and a key part in identity. And once you solidify your identity, this is something that I work through with people that I work with, because which is why I'm getting so excited about it.
I'm concerned because that love thing just threw me across the country and back. So
because you don't have to work for love. Mm-hmm. And I feel like love can be transactional when it doesn't come from the Lord. Mm-hmm. It can seem transactional.
Yeah.
But when he sends you the right people, when you have the right community, when you're in those right rooms, you'll see the reflection of the Lord, the love of the Lord in those places. That's a key thing, that the Lord is there. Sure. That you don't have to work for acceptance. Mm-hmm. You can just be. And I feel like once we get that understanding that I have been called to be a thing first, mm-hmm. I've been called to be a child of God. Called to be. Then I can do everything from that position and from that authority of knowing that I'm already loved and already chosen. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to work for it. But I'm working out of the love, out of the abundance of the love that the Lord has already given me.
We are beings doing, not doings being.
Exactly.
Or not like no.
Human beings, not human doings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like that's what this generation is starving for. Mm-hmm. Identity. Mm-hmm. And the only way you're gonna find out who you are is finding out who the Lord is.
It's finding out who the Lord is. That's it.
That's it. Because we're made in his image.
Yep.
So
yep.
I'm a reflection of him.
you know, when he was loving on me and I was hearing these songs and I'm like, well, one of the songs is Isn't She Lovely? Mm-hmm. So like to think about the fact that the Lord loves you so much and he's ministering to you with these songs, like how often do we have natural lovers that sing sweet nothings or sing stuff over us and we be like and then just sometimes be lying. And there's it's false promises or it's things that come that they can't promise you the things that he promised you. Mm-hmm. So if I've had lying lovers, I've had people in the past who have said sweet nothings to me and they talk me out of whatever, how about I give the Lord an opportunity to love on me and see what that end is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, this has been such a great conversation. I don't want to keep you longer than we have to, but I always end this conversation asking this question. So, for people who are hesitant or struggling with accepting the call, what advice would you give them?
Let him love you. Um, and not just let him love you, but embrace it, receive it. Don't be afraid to obey. Don't be afraid to, because I think when we think about, I used to be an assistant to my youth pastor. I used to be a minister at a church back in Detroit, and the young people hated the word submission. So if y'all on here, hey, they hated the word submission because I think that when we think about things like submission and obeying, it brings us into a place of fear. The fact that I obey the Lord is not out of fear; it's out of reverence for who He is. It's out, like, you know what I'm saying. So it's not so. Don't be afraid to obey. Don't be afraid to move how He's telling you to move. Don't be afraid to allow Him to transform you. Just don't. Every time He asks somebody to do something, I'm telling you, He'd be like, "Do not be afraid." He said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid." Joshua, do not be afraid. Be very courageous. So kicking fear in the face, and every time He asks to do something, like, don't hesitate, do it, because I feel like when we hesitate, it allows the enemy time to like play with our minds. And to anybody that's trying to figure out who they are, let me just say this: no matter what has happened, no matter the trauma, no matter the pain, no matter the mistakes, one, you're loved and you're worth it.
I mean, that's it.
And you're worth you're worth this man allowing his son come into the earth and to experience everything that you could ever imagine so that you can be free. And all you have to do is accept him, receive him in your heart, and confess him with your mouth. And there's yes, eternity. We talk about eternity, but there's also the opportunity to experience heaven on earth. So just know that you're worth it. Is it scripture? He left 99 for one. Is that scripture?
The sheep. It's the parable of the lost.
Hello? He left 99 for one. Hello? He left the 99 for one. But that's it. And know that we serve a God that can love us better than any man, any woman, even any family members. Even and I can't end without sharing the fact that when the Lord told me to then come from Chicago to New York, by the time I was leaving, and I had to do the same thing, I had to obey, but just in a different way. I was making double, almost triple financially more than what I was making when He initially told me to turn in that 2-week notice. And I won't go into what He's done this time, but in the sending, in the obeying, He's going to always provide, always. Even in moments of instability, where I felt like, ooh, this is shaky, He came right through. Now I'm clapping, okay. He came right through. So His promises are sure, and let Him love you. That's it. Because
the truth.
I can talk. I can talk.
It's good. This is exactly why we have this platform.
Yeah. And allow faith to make you whole. Allow faith to make you whole.
That's so good. Because the truth is, he is more committed to your freedom than you actually are.
Yes. Hello? Because sometimes it get ghetto. You be like, you want me? I can't do what? I mean,
But
I got to say no to who? You see that 5 minutes? Okay. All right. All right, Shody.
it's protection. It's protection. Because
Yes.
you're more committed to your freedom
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah. Yes. Hey, Beeless.
Hey, Sheila.
Hey, Spots.
So,
But
so
yeah.
this has been an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
I thank you so much for your transparency, so much for your authenticity.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to affirm you. Thank you for affirming me first, but I just want to affirm you in the fact of what you have already said. Your yes has been pivotal in the lives of other people's in the lives of other people in ways that you haven't even seen fully manifest yet. So I just want to affirm you in who the Lord has created you to be, a deliverer, a person who unlocks potential in other people, a person who's able to perceive a thing before it is.
Jesus.
I want to thank you for saying yes. And I know it's come with a lot of loss, but you will be rewarded for your obedience. And I thank you because it's changed my life. I didn't even explain to the audience how we know each other, but it has changed my lives, and I've witnessed it change so many others. And I can only imagine how many people you interact with when I'm not even there. So I just want to thank you for saying yes, even when it's difficult.
Sure. Sure.
And even when it's painful. And I want to encourage you to continue saying yes because you are very necessary.
Yes, ma'am.
You are very necessary. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you so much for your story tonight. Sheila says you changed her life as well.
Oh,
So that's
yes. I love y'all.
that's
I
funny.
love y'all so much. I'm really trying to
Yeah, I didn't want to make you cry, but
keep
I
it
do want to.
together. Yes.
Yeah,
See
totally.
Toya. I see.
The
Yeah.
evidence and the reminder that you are on the right path
Yeah.
and you have been on the right. It's so necessary. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining this episode of the Confrontation of Calling, the conversation.
Yes.
And I'll see you guys next Monday for another guest, another story, so that we can be transformed and confront our calling. So have a good night.
Follow Diane if y'all
Oh
want.
yeah, sure.
Go to Diane.
If you're interested in working with me, I am a coach,
Yes.
speaker.
Sorry.
I am an author. I do have a book. You can contact me on all things confrontationcalling.com. And if you go to my profile, the link is in the description in the profile.
Yes.
I'm just here supporting people as we walk in our purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited for what we have in store. I'm so excited for the continuous conversations. Oh, also, if you're interested in being a part of this conversation, DM me and we'll have a conversation. So, yes, thank you guys. Have a good night.
Good night.
Peace.
Love you. Love y'all.
Peace.